Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic host of Bachelor Nation News. In today's video on January 3rd, 2023, we're going to discuss Two Black Girls, One Rose and why they're skipping Zach's season. They're just not excited about Zach, but it's obviously a little bit more interesting, and they elaborate on that. We'll have that story for you in this video, but first I wanted to share a few moments to talk about a heavy topic here, which is Damar Hamlin fighting for his life. I already made this video on the Dave Neal Show. It doesn't exactly apply to Bachelor Nation News, but I don't know if you caught this. Buffalo Bills star Damar Hamlin was fighting for his life after a shocking on-field collapse last night. Bills versus Bengals. I don't know about you guys. I was sitting there watching the game as my wife is a big Bengals fan. She's from the Cincinnati region, and it was a horrifying incident that pretty much the whole nation watched play out. And our thoughts and prayers are with him. How it applies to Bachelor content is one of our favorite people to cover. Jason Tartick is a big Buffalo Bills fan. So let's just see what he had to say as he shared information as it played out live last night.
Nothing puts a football game in perspective like this right now. There's a player down. What they're hearing is they brought defibrillators out, CPR, players are crying. Like, you get so hyped up about this game. Like,
So this was just 10 minutes in. Of course, they went to like 3, 4, 5 different commercial breaks right away, and this never happens. The way the ambulance rushed the field was something that was a little bit more uncertain. And here's further on, people started wondering, half an hour into the postponement, to the delay, are they going to postpone this game? And it took them a while. They initially said they were going to get a 5-minute warm-up and start the game again. The players and coaches said, no, we're not going to do that. They tried to hype themselves back up to play, and they said, this is foolish. This isn't important. These are the reaction of these pro athletes on both sides, and they just kept on cutting to commercials with no information.
So they're deciding now whether they should continue to play or not. But if they don't have an update on this guy and he just went down the way he did with defibrillators and everything, there is no reason they should play this game.
And I agree. Okay, and then so shortly after, they postponed it.
Cardiologist in New York, and he was saying, with no idea of what happened, but based on just the mechanism, they treated the injury with CPR and defibrillators, and it's likely something called commotio cordis, which is when there's severe impact to the heart, and it actually triggers the heart to go into cardiac arrest. And that is the only conclusion, only made off of just what they saw as a mechanism of treatment. So
yeah, it's just about like a 20 millisecond window if the heart's beating at the exact wrong moment where blunt force happens. This has happened with baseballs, hockey pucks. It's very rare, and it does happen. We discuss it all on the Dave Neal Show. For those that say, oh, it must be from the vaccine, please don't have that discussion on my page. We've already said, people say, well, myocarditis, it happens when you get the COVID vaccine. It actually happens more when you just catch COVID without the vaccine. Anyone can use these sort of situations to peddle their point. We don't need to have that here. You're not going to catch me having that discussion with you guys. All right, so here's our featured story of this video, why we're skipping Zach's season. And let me tell you this. There's something so valuable in our community, and I'll spoil my response to this, which is I respect what they're doing. I respect that they want to do what's right for them. If they feel like it is a burden and a labor to watch this season play out, one which is going to possibly look like plenty of seasons that have already happened, I respect that. The idea about friction, and now let me be careful to explain my point here. The idea about friction being able to, or I'll put it this way, outsiders looking in, having Two Black Girls, One Rose comment on what unfortunately has been a primarily white-led show, being the leads have been, for the most part, been white, and when they haven't been white, they've been botched in the sense that the show has done a bad job of promoting love stories. They'll sacrifice love and go for drama. They go for the instant ratings. If it bleeds, it leads type of deal. But having the friction of having someone who doesn't look like the leads discuss it, that's a good thing. And it's not just race-based. It can happen with gender-based. Like, our audience is 92% women. And as a guy looking at the show, I can look at it just slightly different than as a woman would. And the goal is to try to have empathy for people that don't look like us being me, a white guy, you being maybe someone who's a different color or a different gender or whatever the case may be. So before I play this, I just stumbled upon this. I met Liz Plank a couple years ago, actually right before the pandemic, and she's got a very interesting point of view when it comes to why she as a woman can discuss male-dominated gender issues. So this is kind of applies a parallel to what Two Black Girls, One Rose, what their discussion is. So just have a quick listen.
Makes you qualified to have a discussion, to be a voice.
And for those listening on Bachelor Rush Hour podcast, we have the commentator asking how she can have a discussion about men and masculinity.
Where men are talking about, it's called Man Enough.
The same thing that makes you the most qualified to have a conversation about whiteness. That you as a black man understand whiteness far more than I understand it, or Justin can understand it.
What a great answer.
And it's not to say that it's your labor or your work, but you actually can teach us way more about it because you have had to deal with it every single minute.
So when I talk about friction, I don't mean friction in a negative way, like, oh, there's friction in a relationship, there's lots of fighting. I mean friction in the sense that having someone who doesn't look or sound like you or look or sound like me discussing a topic that might already be similar to me. I think I know everything there is to know about sports. I'm using this as an example. Well, a black man might say, well, actually, I have to deal with different issues than you do, so you don't know everything about sports. And when it comes to a dating show, especially a dating show that has centered around maybe a white man in the role as the lead, how I view that might be different than Two Black Girls, One Rose. I hope that makes sense. And that's why it's valuable to have discussions, not just with people that look or sound like us. That's called an echo chamber. We don't like that.
Covering Zach's season of The Bachelor.
And here's why.
I keep on missing the intro. They said we're not covering Zach's season of The Bachelor.
And here's why. So this was a decision that came with a lot of intention and thought and wanting us to do the best thing for us, but also the best thing for our amazing community here at Two Black Girls, One Rose. We are not saying that we are done with The Bachelor. We're just saying that The Bachelor will not be our focal point for this upcoming season. We might do bonus episodes. We'll still talk Bachelor Nation on social media. We'll still be engaged. We'll be peeking over at Zach's season. But it won't be our core focus for this upcoming recap season.
You know me, I like a good Patreon. I think they should, if they're going to do bonus episodes, put that behind the paywall. Make your audience pay for it. Get your money.
Ultimately, Bachelor Nation as a community is not excited by Zach as the Bachelor. You obviously know that we also are definitely not excited by Zach as the Bachelor. So the decision kind of started there.
Now, I personally, the idea that we're not excited about Zach as a Bachelor, I'm not excited, but I'm generally never excited about who the lead is. For me, a lot of the drama and uniqueness of the show will come from the cast, which will be dozens of women fighting for The Bachelor. It appears that the general idea of the show when picking the lead is to find somebody. I don't know if it's them being safe, and I don't mean safe as in gender. I just mean like someone who's going to do what the show says, not somebody who's going to, they have to kind of control their lead in a way because they need the show to follow the storyline. Maybe they're afraid of the Claire Crowley, oh, she fell in love too early type of thing. I don't know. But I think the show banks on the contestants, the women in this case, being the ones that cause the drama in that if a love story does come out, we'll get to see. I mean, I guess the question is this: is Zach as vanilla as they say? Probably. I don't know. When we say Clayton's vanilla, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of the last white lead that we would consider not vanilla. I mean, I don't know. Let me know. Leave a comment.
Yeah, but also I think that it's a double-edged sword, right? Because we've all been wronged by this franchise so many times with their choice of Bachelor, continuing to choose the safe, boring white man instead of anybody else. And this choice of Zach seems like a slap in the face, but in the end, it's a lose-lose situation because we've seen them pick a Black Bachelor before, and we can't ever forget how tragically Matt James's season went and how much work it took for Natasha and I as Black women to recap that season and to watch it even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to like block that time of life. Oh, so bad. Now, Married at First Sight, we are very excited about. It seems like everybody, men and women, watch Married at First Sight. We get emails, we get DMs, we get comments from you guys in the community about Married at First Sight all of the time, purely based on sometimes our tiny little teeny tiny recaps that we'll do at the end of our Bachelor
little minis. Yes.
Our little minis. We'll get tons of people reaching out to us wanting to just like talk more about it. We've also done weekly recaps of Married at First Sight once before during the very iconic Chris and Paige Atlanta season.
Oh, man.
And I think we all had a blast during that.
Yeah, so they're going to be recapping other dating shows. And then look, I mean, hey, Two Black Girls, One Rose is the name of the Instagram podcast and all that. But that doesn't mean that one rose has to apply to Bachelor. No, it's more like rose and the idea of the rose is the common romantic gesture. You give someone a rose, Valentine's Day, that type of deal. Yeah, I say go for that. You know, people have asked me to, recap Love is Blind. And I used to do a little bit of that, but I've gotten so in the weeds and into the thick of things with Bachelor that I don't generally branch off on the dating show. I understand the thought of them being exhausted about the sort of recurring themes and not wanting to recap that. I understand that. I feel that way separately about other dating shows in the sense that I have such a workload in the amount of content I create. 3 to 5 videos a day. I mean, it's 7:15 in the morning or 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm already on my second video of the day. I'll have a podcast up this afternoon, Bachelor Rush Hour. So all these things I understand. You have to kind of like pick and choose where you want to put your time in life. And maybe this is good for you to hear as an audience with regards to whatever it is you're pursuing in life. You have the choice to decide where you put your time and energy, and nobody needs to recap a show if it's not bringing them peace and joy. So good for them on that. If you enjoy all of the different clips that I pull together, I've created the podcast Bachelor Rush Hour right here. You can see the link if you're watching on the video. And there's a link below, linktree.com/Dave Neal. If you just go to that link, you can click on anywhere you can listen to this podcast. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, all these different places. It's an end of the day podcast where at the end of every single business day, you can listen to that 30 minutes long, and it's called Bachelor Rush Hour because the idea is that you can listen to it on your drive home, but whatever it is you're doing, laundry, sex, whatever, I don't care. put an ear pod in and listen to the compilation of all of Bachelor's news. And also, don't forget, as I love to promote different content creators, to check out Two Black Girls, One Rose. I mean, it takes up 0% of your time to click on their Instagram, give them a follow, and listen to what they're saying. As I mentioned before, with Liz Plank and her conversation she's having about men and masculinity, listening to what Two Black Girls, One Rose have to say in a field of Bachelor commentators, which is predominantly dominated by white men and women, it's good to hear different opinions. So let's embrace that in 2023. All right, I'll have more content coming to you guys right after this. And don't forget the Patreon bonus Work with Dave will be at 10 a.m. today, patreon.com/Dave Neal. We'll see you guys in a little bit.